Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Pat's Travel Pass. Hit you up with another video 1 week early in United's Premium Plus to wrap up our Europe trip this past April. We're going to check out and see how United's catering and service and product compares from Frankfurt to SFO, and then we'll look back at our SFO to Frankfurt and see which one is better. Come join us. Like I mentioned, today we're flying from Frankfurt back to SFO in United's Premium Plus, also known as the purple seats. We're on a Boeing 777-300ER for our journey today, and we're getting in some great ramp views early on, especially the 747, which is actually the exact plane that I flew on for my very first video in Lufthansa's first class. Go check out that video if you're interested. Couldn't stop in Germany and not get a pretzel. It's a must. After finishing my pretzel, I got a glimpse of a furry friend that might be joining us on our flight. I've never seen this in an airport, or let alone in any building, so that was quite the surprise. As our boarding time grew near, I realized that I couldn't find our plane in any of the Z gates, which is where all of United's flights depart from. This cued me into realizing we would be boarding a 777-300 via stairs at a remote stand. I would never pass up ramp views like this, even if we have to take a bus packed to the gills, because Frankfurt is one of the best plane spotting airports in the world, I'd argue, just because of them being the biggest carrier of 747s at the moment. We pulled up alongside a departing United aircraft. I believe it was to Washington Dulles. You never get views like this in American airports. Time had finally come to board our plane. Now, unfortunately, I don't get to turn left, as that mileage and points people always like to say, once you turn left, you can't go back. Unfortunately for this flight, we're turning right, but still to a great United Premium Plus product. We've already reviewed this on SFO to Frankfurt. Go check out that video if you're interested. And now we are going to take the same flight back home. Its sister flight, United 59. Now for this flight, we'll be sitting in seats 20A and B in the bulkhead. There's only 3 rows of Premium Plus on the 777s. On the previous flight, we were in 22A and B, so the very last row, same left side of the plane, but I prefer that actually for sleeping on overnight flights from the West Coast to Europe. I don't really like when people get up or kick my seat or anything, especially with these seats having footrests and the screen on the back of the headrest. I really prefer the last row for sleeping. Now for this flight, which was completely during the day, I do prefer the bulkhead just because you get unlimited leg room and you can actually hang out and stand up. There is no restroom in between the last row of Polaris and our row, so nobody is sitting around and waiting to use the restroom. So it is pretty quiet, so it is a pretty good seat. Once in the air and at cruising altitude, the crew jumped into action to get our lunch service on the way. Now, I will say our catering was okay coming out of SFO, but we got so much alcohol on this return leg. We had the 2 Zinfandel wines here, and then they came back for a second drink service and gave 2 more. So doing the math on each of these little bottles, that equated to a whole bottle of wine. It was more than enough to get some snoozing afterwards. But we had here chicken, salad, and a bread roll, along with some truffle chocolates, which were so good I had to take a separate picture of it. I really liked the catering. +1 for Frankfurt on the ramp views on the way to the plane, right? Boarding by bus and stairs. Also +1 for catering. Now the crew came around with a mid-flight snack about halfway through. I actually didn't get this because I was sleeping on the previous flight, so can't really compare. Had a couple crackers, bars, and a Kit Kat. I thought it was a nice amount of food in between 2 hot meals. These daytime flights can really go on, especially with that headwind, adding about an extra hour on our West Coast City return flights. But again, United's in-flight entertainment is top of the line. Plenty of movies and TV shows. I honestly just enjoy watching the map and playing some games on my phone and kicking back. We then had our second hot meal, which included a second lunch. It was kind of like a rolled pizza with pesto, and then I liked the side salad to give it a little bit more color, and then the Diet Coke to wash it all down. After 11 hours of flying, we finally came into our final descent to SFO. If you can, sit on the left side of the planes coming from Europe or even the East Coast. The way that they route you, you get great views of the city if there's no clouds, as well as the Golden Gate Bridge. It is really one of the best arrival approaches that you can witness from a plane. On this flight, I will have to say that the crew were a little bit more unorganized compared to our crew leaving from SFO, so I will have to give a point to the SFO flight for that. But in the end, I did feel like the catering and just the organization of boarding the plane, the actual sights that you get to see on the plane, were just much better from Frankfurt, as well as the seats with the unlimited legroom, because this is a daytime flight. You really can't go wrong with the bulkhead, especially if you don't mind people getting up behind you a few times a flight. So I would pick the bulkhead again, possibly on an overnight. That wraps up this episode of Pat's Travel Pass. Thanks again for all your support, and we'll see you next time.